Hello, welcome back to the ministry. This is Taj McCameron, and I'm back for another part to this video. I do not know why this one do this. It's annoying me. But the Lord showed me this, and I think it's all this is gonna tie into one another. Okay? Because the Lord gave me a series of events that occurred within the past 24 to 48 hours. And within that, I'm going to explain to you the revelation that I got. Okay? I'm about to show you something in relation to the counterfeit, in relation to the man, and in relation to the woman. Okay? And this is for somebody. And the Lord is ordering how I phrase this. Okay? I'm going to start with the man first. And I'm going to actually start with something that I mentioned in a blog post recently. It was a scenario that occurred for me where I was sitting in the library where I do a lot of my work out of. And when I was sitting there, this was just further confirmation. When I tell you these men coming, they coming. The real thing is en route. The fact of the matter is this. I did a word. Okay. I did a word several months back called actually it was a review of the movie Temptations of a Marriage Counselor. It's a 10-part review. Go back and look at it. It's in Rayma Movie Reviews. But after that, I did a short video where I have a cover where you're seeing clouded glass with a woman and a man on the opposite side of it. Go look at that video, but I'm going to mention something I said in that. There are certain things from your past that are on the opposite side of glass. You can see them. They cannot see you. This woman was in the library. This was my ex's mother. I looked up, and when I saw her, I had to do a double take because I could not believe that she was standing in front of me. She was walking towards me and just come out of the bathroom. I looked down and I was like, God, what do you want me to do? She went and sat at the computer that was literally adjacent to where I was sitting. He said, sit still and do not move. So many thoughts went through my mind, my head, my heart, my body, and my spirit at that moment. Because there's that part of you that wants to get up and run and say, look, I'm a lead. I don't need all this. There's part of you just want to move from where you were sitting at. God says, sit still. Stand still and watch what the God does. He says, sit still, keep your head down. Don't move. Don't get up. Don't move. Don't even draw attention to yourself. Just stay where you are. I sat there for 2.5 hours while this woman was literally sitting adjacent from me. There was a part of my brain that said there were some things that the Lord had given me confirmation of in relation to my ex. And when I saw her, I knew, I was like, should I say something to this woman? And the Lord said, sit still and do not move. Because the kind-hearted side of me, the godly Christian woman, wanted to get up and say hello, see how he was doing, and then potentially maybe even pray for her. If anything like what had seen that the Lord showed me was going on with him. Lord says, sit still, don't move. For some of you, there is a test that may be coming to you, towards you, or en route to you. And in that test, it's going to be a scenario just like that. 2.5 hours she sat in front of me. I was not to move. I was not to speak. I was not to do anything. And when God said it was time for me to walk out of that building, he said, get up and just walk out. Some of you, the enemy will try to tempt you. The movie Fighting Temptation, not Fighting Temptation, Temptation of a Marriage Counselor, but it felt like Fighting Temptation. The guy that approached that woman, he approached her from a distance. He inquired her from a distance. She had to open the door. You have to open the door. The enemy will place it in front of you and allow your curiosity that kill a cat. I'm going to sit this right in front of you and see if you can avoid the temptation to do what you do. I'm going to sit it right here. Right here. I'm going to even use your kindness for weakness because I know you want to go over there and potentially pray for this woman. I'm going to sit it right there. You hear that siren? I'm about to give you another revelation. Hold up. Sit it right in front of you. The Lord showed me a street. It's like you're on a street. You see somebody that you know. Some of you, maybe your ex. Some of you, whoever it is. But as long as you don't cross the street, an enemy will make it extremely tempting. Because you don't see the spiritual glass that's between the two of you. It's right there. You have to open the door. Don't open the door. Next. This is the revelation he gave me in my obedience to sit and sit still. I had a dream that night that the enemy was trying to take me backwards, coming into alignment with the revelation about distractions. It's called, go look up Bold for Christ video. I mentioned it before. It was even underneath, I think, the movie review for Thin Line Between Love and Hate. Bold for Christ did a video called Satan is trying to distract and delay to make you late for your blessing. Some of you will be tempted by things that are going to come up just like that. It's going to be sitting right in front of you. Some of you, out of kindness, the enemy's going to play with your kindness just like that. But the revelation that the Lord gave me in the dream he gave me that night when I obediently listened was that what the enemy was doing was that there was, you could call it an incubus spirit. You could call it a marine spirit, warlock, whatever it is, was trying to get me to come into agreement with something from my past by putting this woman in front of me. Okay? And I'm going to lead right into what I'm about to say, okay? By putting her in front of me, want me come into agreement. I had a dream of my ex that night. And you know what happened? In it, it was like I was already in relationship with something in relation to him. He was talking to me. He even had me in a comfortable position, meaning I was in a place that was familiar to me. It reminded me of my mother's old bedroom. And we were having this conversation. And after it was like the conversation completed, I literally snapped out of it in the midst of the dream to say, I'm sorry. I do not come into agreement with any of this. I am not coming into agreement with anything to do with you. I got up and I walked away. I said, let's get out of here. I think it was two angelic figures that were in the bathroom just waiting. And the bathroom always represents something for me in relation to God. And I passed that spiritual test. But in it, the Lord revealed towards the end of it that this man had something in relation to finance in relation to me. Oh, I'm about to get there. Pay close attention. Because a couple of weeks ago, I had been having a dream, woke up, had a weird attack in the middle of the night where it was almost as if I was waking up unable to breathe. Now, sometimes I go to sleep and I got gas on my chest. And the sharpness of the pain that hit my chest had me jolted up out of bed. Not once, but twice. Because I thought I had calmed it down, and I ended up getting up the second time. And just before I woke up, it was like I saw my ex's spirit sitting within, like from where I am sitting, he would have been sitting 2 feet, less than 2 feet away from me, watching me. I got up out that bed that night and I started praying some kind of hard. And the confirmation that the prayer worked was when I got up, I heard somebody knocking on the door. And it was the police. They were knocking on the door to the house across the hall. I'm going to leave this right in here. Last night, I heard the two people in the apartment across the hall that the police were knocking on at that night. The woman was saying, "I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry." On several separate occasions, I've heard that man, and I can only say that he was consumed with a madman spirit at the time because the man does drugs. He was consumed with it in that moment, and he would beat her. I ain't saying this because I want to. I'm saying it because the Lord is giving it to me like this. Which only reminded me of a moment in time when I was involved with that woman's son. I was standing in his kitchen at his mother's house. She was not there. He had just come back from having taken an exam. And all I was doing was saying, "How did it go?" He grabbed me on by both of my arms, and the expression in his eyes, all I could see was rage. And the oven door was open. He could have did anything in that moment to seriously hurt me. But it never happened. There was a separate occasion a couple years prior to that, or within that year period, where he and I were walking across the street, and he kind of made a suggestive statement to call me a bitch. I said, "Excuse me, sir, what did you just say?" He was like, "Oh, I know, I wasn't talking to you." I was like, "You tried it." He never did again. See, some people, when the devil goes into them, he tries to see if he can get away with some. If you'll let him do it. For you are never supposed to come into agreement with certain things. You understand what I'm saying? So what ended up happening is I cut it. I shut it down. I stayed in a relationship with that man for 7 years. But my point being, and I'm going to bring this in here, Deani Neves did a video where she literally calls it don't go back to what God delivered you from. When I saw that woman in that library that day, I could have made the decision to say something to her, but the door was shut. If I opened the door, it would have been on me. And I would have had to have God get me out of that situation. And for some of you, this is what your spouse had to deal with. You understand what I'm saying? Because the enemy going to keep these individuals coming past them. If he chooses to, he would be the one that would need to open the door. And that's what the enemy is doing. He's using your kindness for weakness. Because he knows that's your weakness. You want to help everybody. But he knows that if you open the door, it's on you. What happens? Don't open doors like that. Which brings me to my next point. I was talking about the money. For some of you, your exes, you came into agreement with a siphoning spirit. These men either took money from you or you handed them, put money in their hand. You gave money within their family. And because of it, there is actually a ability for them to have had siphoned. In that dream, he was siphoning money. I saw a bank account statement. And hold on.